This is Tuesday, November 23rd, Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals. It is currently 6:35. My name is Lynn Fiddler. I'm the chair this evening, and we have in front of us Chris Blazos, Larry Keane, Lynn Fiddler, Town Council Bob Galvin, Mark Stiles, and Mr. Feeney, Steve Feeney down there, and Nancy and Andrew, our building commissioner and administrator. I'd like to remind everybody that is dialing in that you need to press *6 to have yourself heard, and then *6 again to mute yourself if you are dialing in. Our meeting ID is 837-9618-7921. Passcode is 198366. I'd also like to make the public and the board aware of the option for remote attendance. This is a hybrid participation meeting, and the remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public. The meeting hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless required by law. So this evening we also have Heidi Conway that is Zooming in with us this evening. Heidi, can you hear my voice? I'll try again. Heidi, can you hear my voice?
She's unmuted, so I wonder if she's got a volume issue.
I'll do it.
You're gonna call her. Thank you.
I just shut my phone off.
Can we hear anybody through there?
Just heard something.
Hang on a sec.
You want to ask Bill
What?
Lucas to say something?
Bill Lucas, can you hear my voice?
How about now? Can she hear us now?
Heidi, can you hear us now?
Yep.
Okay, there you
I
are.
can, thank you.
Thank you for being patient with us. Are we hearing an echo?
Yeah, I got it. I'm sorry.
Alrighty. So part of the procedure is that we do a roll call for any members that are Zooming in. So Heidi can hear me, and we are echoing at this particular time. So just give us a second.
I don't know why.
We're echoing in the selectman's office.
Volume down.
Shut it off. It's still coming through.
Oh, God.
Sorry. That's my fault.
Problem solved. All right?
Yes.
Are we good?
All set.
Can
Okay.
Heidi still hear
Sorry.
you?
Alrighty. Did I miss
Can she
anything?
still hear you?
Heidi, you can still hear me, correct?
Yes, I can, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so this evening, we have on our agenda, we are going to stick to our agenda this evening. We have case 2182, which is 2121 Ocean Street, McDonald's. We have 2183, which is 274 Foster Avenue. We have a case 2172A, which is 17 Seminole Avenue. This case has been requested to continue to February 8th, 2022. This is a continued hearing, and this case has already been read into the record at the previous hearing. We also have this evening Webster Point Village, which is a 40B that I believe we will be deliberating on. We also have a case 2159A, which is the Town of Marshfield Harbor Master. And this case, we will begin with a deliberation to decide on a course of action, identify outline points, and then go to a vote at the next hearing on December 14th. So, the December 14th hearing, as I understand it at this point, has 8 cases, is that correct? 8 cases?
Do it for the same applicant, though.
2 for the same applicant, so that's a doable situation at this point. And then is that the last case before the new, do we have another case after
We have a meeting the 28th.
the 28th? is the case, so, board members, do we have a conflict with December 28th for vacation week?
Yeah, I'm not here, but I could Zoom if we had needed it.
You could Zoom if necessary, okay. All right. So do we have the applicant here this evening for case 2182? Case 2182.
Yes, Bill Lucas is from Bowler representing McDonald's.
Bill Lucas, okay. I'm going to read this into the record and then we'll get started. This is case 2182, McDonald's USA LLC. The petitioner is seeking a variance in accordance with 305-10.11 of the Marshfield Municipal Code for relief from 305-7.04B and 305-704.C to add one wall sign to the side of the restaurant which will match the size, color, and style of the existing wall sign on the front of the building on the property located at 2121 Ocean Street, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel G0804-01 and is located in a B2 zoning district. Mr. Lucas, if you wouldn't mind telling us what your project is here in front of us for, as our building commissioner gets your submissions on the board.
Yes, good evening, everybody. Bill Lucas with Bowler. We're based out of Boston and here representing McDonald's USA for the site at 2121 Ocean. And in particular, we've gone through a rebranding at this site and through many McDonald's sites throughout New England. And at this time, what the owner would like to do is add an additional wall sign to the building that currently exists. What signage exists out there today is one freestanding sign and one wall sign, which is affixed to the front of the building. I don't know if you have a plan available or if I should share my screen to...
We should have a plan.
Okay, fair enough. The existing wall sign on the site now is 14 square foot boxed area, so a 3.5 by 4 foot M, or the typical golden arch M symbol that you're used to seeing, and that is affixed to the front of the building facing directly to Ocean Avenue. What we're proposing is one additional M symbol, yes, as shown on screen now, which would be on the side of the building immediately above the entry point, directing any pedestrians or customers in the parking area to the door for entry to the building, and as well as trying to provide an additional opportunity to McDonald's to identify their brand recognition to any travelers on Ocean Avenue itself. That sign, again, like the sign on the front of the building, is 14 square foot boxed area, 3.5 by 4 foot, and overall it represents approximately 0.1% of that building area, the boxed area, versus the building side area is about 0.1% of the total. What we understand from the code is no more than 40 square foot and no more than 10% of that wall area. So it is significantly less than what the code would require for any sign on the building. But we understand that we're coming here tonight before you because of the fact that we're exceeding the total number of signs on the site, which by code is 2, and we are proposing a 3rd at this point.
Alrighty, it's pretty cut and dry why they're here. Any questions from the board? This is the same situation as we've had in other applicants. We usually stay pretty much to the bylaw on signs. And I would like the input of the board.
I went by there tonight. I think they did a great job in the renovation and the restoration of the building. It looks great. But, You can't miss the big M out front already. It's pretty much an iconic brand. I really don't see the need myself for a third sign.
Chris, do you have any input?
I don't, in terms of a variance, I don't understand how you'd meet condition one. I don't know how this is connected to the shape of the lot or the topography in any way. I understand they're trying to keep some conformity with other McDonald's, but hey, we have rules in front of us, and that's why we have them.
Okay.
Can I speak to that point, where
no.
after all board members?
Sir, after the board members are done, I'll give you an opportunity, and then the public.
So,
Thank you.
The old way was McDonald's was written out on the side, and now that's gone.
You want to direct,
Nothing on the side.
there was
What's that?
nothing previously on the side?
That wasn't on the side right there?
No.
No, on the front of the building, I believe
Oh,
it spelled out
that's-
McDonald's originally before
And
the
now it's just an M?
restoration. Yeah, this is it appears to be a rebrand, so they changed their logo and signage. Is what it appears to me is going on here.
I mean,
So there's nowhere that it's spelled out McDonald's anymore, it's just these three M's?
No, it's on the front of the
It
building.
is still on the front of the
Yeah,
building?
I think it's just gonna be an M on the front of the building, right?
It's just an M.
Right there, what they're proposing to put over the
That's the
driveway,
side,
that's
right?
on the front of, that's what's on the
This-
front of the building
yeah.
now. It appears to be an updated logo. But the street
So-
sign right out front is,
Can I see the front again, Andrew? That's the front?
Mm-hmm. That's the front door, that's the side door, this is the drive-through area.
So there's no written out McDonald's anymore, it's
Nope.
just the M's? So there's three, there's one on the side, one on the front, and then one on the stand out
The
front?
pole
They're
sign.
proposing, yeah. Do you-
Did they outline a purpose for the variance, other than pretty please?
That's the existing sign in the front.
That's existing,
That's the existing sign in the front.
but now they're going to M.
They chose to put it on.
Nancy, do you have the or Andrew, do you have the application for the variance form
No, it's
2C?
McDonald's, that's the sign.
That's the old one, though.
That's what they have today.
Is there a
didn't
specific
change it.
section you would like?
Um,
You could ask that question.
yeah, just start with number 1. No, I have form 2. Yes, no, I have it. Okay.
Is the front sign on the pole gonna change to just an M, or is that also gonna stay as McDonald's?
Mr. Lucas, would you like to respond to the board?
That will remain as is.
The argument is it's uniquely shaped. It's no more, go back, can we go back to the site plan?
The question there, Mark, was if this.
So that stays.
Yeah.
That's staying the same?
Yeah.
I believe that's been updated also, isn't there? There's a signboard below that McDonald's now. Was there a signboard there before?
Mr. Lucas, would you care to respond?
I'm unaware that there's a signboard below that. It was not described to be changed in the previous plans.
Yeah, I came by there tonight, there's a signboard below it, coffee and a McMuffin for $2.
That's right, I saw that.
Good deal.
Did that look temporary in any means?
No.
I'm just,
No, not at all.
I thought he was gonna
Looks
say
very
that.
nice, the building came out very nice, you did a nice job with
yeah.
it.
It's been my experience that we haven't changed any freestanding signs on any of the hundreds of McDonald's that we've done work on over the past 5 years. So that may be something that someone else took their own initiative on and not per our plans.
Now, am I correct, this is just pretty much a rebranding, so you're trying to stay consistent with other stores that have been rebranded in this fashion? Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Do you want to continue, Mark, with your questions? Do you want to skip over to Mr. Feeney?
Yeah, no, go ahead. I just want to read the 8 enumerated
Steve, do you have
factors.
any comments?
Not right now, no.
So this is what prompted the variance, was this sign permit here. So they applied for the sign permit, and they have the front sign, which is allowed. They had the directional signage, which is allowed. And then this is the it was
The
but it was this sign permit is what triggered the variance, is the additional sign on the side.
Pretty much because they're looking for a third sign, correct?
Correct.
Is there an argument to be made that that's not actually a sign, though?
It's a sign,
A
isn't
a
it?
logo is considered a sign.
Yeah.
When Walgreens was built, they wanted that mortar and pestle,
Yeah.
and they weren't allowed to have that. So what they did is they put it on an interior wall in
Yeah.
a mezzanine. It's visible because they only get 2 signs.
Well, if they had wrapped the word around the corner of the building, would that be 2 signs?
No, if it's one continuous sign and wrapped around the corner, it wouldn't be.
If they created a window there and that M was
They could put it
inside.
on an interior wall. That's how it was determined in the past.
And planning has already seen this for site plan, or
Yeah,
is
the
that,
comments are in the.
the comments are in here? Okay.
Something they have.
They had no comments on McDonald's.
No.
This is just the sign variance though, right? It's not a site plan approval, right?
No, they made changes to the, and they
Well-
made changes.
But it didn't come before the board for
No, it
site
did
plan
not.
approval.
No, it did not. I just
Typically,
been driving
supposed-
by seeing it.
it's supposed to.
Yeah,
why
I think
I'm
that's
asking.
that's probably just an error on my part, not setting it for that when they did the exterior remodel. The other aspect was, the only other change was they added an accessible
Ramp.
ramp from the sidewalk to the to the
Sidewalk.
McDonald's to make it handicap accessible. So
Okay.
that's really where the only change is.
But okay.
So, but Bob, what you're saying is if they, on the pillar on the side of the building, if they boxed it in inside and put a window over it, they'd be okay?
Yep.
I'm fine with that.
But that would be a certain distance on inside, right? It's gotta be a distance from an interior, from a window.
I don't know that we've said that, but in the Walgreens, when you drive up to the light there, and you look at the tower that they have there, there's windows, and inside the window, you can see the Walgreens mortar and pestle on the interior wall. And they illuminate that area. That's how they handle it, and that was deemed permissible.
Mr. Lucas, are you able to hear the comments from the board?
I am, and I'm writing them down about the Walgreens. Take a look at that interior wall, inset it, and you'd have a window over it, and that would be considered permissible, as it wouldn't be considered a wall sign at that point.
Yeah. The gist I'm getting from the board is a variance in this case would be very unusual for the board to grant. I'm just one vote, based on your application. So,
Understood, so I do have some questions with regard to that then.
absolutely. Go ahead.
If we go forward with the vote tonight and it was not approved, does that put us in a position that we wouldn't be able to make an application for an interior inset wall sign for 2 years? Is that the case? I don't want to prohibit McDonald's for a certain period of time if a negative vote is going to, push that forward in some manner. I guess I can understand that piece.
Okay, I'd let town council to answer you on that.
You would be out for 2 years for a further sign variance, but if you're able to come forth with something that didn't represent a sign, you'd probably have to come back to the board for site plan approval to make that exterior change. But it wouldn't be you wouldn't be out for 2 years for something that was on an interior wall.
Okay, because then at that point in time, it would be compliant,
Correct.
per se.
So where this didn't come in front of us for a site plan, is that something they need to do at this
They
point?
should have
They should
that
clean this,
approved.
okay. So, Mr. Lucas, are you hearing the advice of town council to the board? That you need to approach the board with a site plan approval to get this?
Yes.
On the
And
record.
obviously, we would have to figure that out architecturally as well. So I think if that's the case, I would still request that the board vote on this matter tonight.
Okay,
As the way I've been instructed to handle it from McDonald's.
okay,
And then I can go back to them with the information about how they can, review the design and see if there's an alternate way to place an M logo on the side of the building that would not require us to be in front of the zoning board and just go through planning.
okay. Heidi, can you hear what's going on in the room?
Yes,
Do you have any comments?
I agree that it's just not something we can do right now.
Okay, all right, good enough. I'm going to, if the board, unless the board has any other comments, I'm going to go to the public. We good? Okay. Any questions or comments from the public? Again, if you're dialing in and you're on Zoom, you need to press *6. Okay, there are no comments from the public. Is the board prepared to close this hearing? We good? Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we close case 21-82 for 2121 Ocean Street. Do I have a second?
Second, Larry Keane.
Second by Larry Keane. All in favor of closing?
Aye, Chris Belizos.
Larry Keane, aye.
Lynn Fiddler, aye.
Mark Stiles, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Heidi?
Aye.
All right, this hearing is now closed. The deliberation on this hearing, I'm guessing we can just get to it right now? Okay? Are we good? Okay. It is a variance. The applicant is aware of the board's comments based on the discussions we had here this evening. It is my feeling that this particular permit would not apply and be denied as a variance. Is that the feeling of the board?
Aye. Yes, deny.
I would approve it. I think if we're gonna allow him to put a window and then the sign behind the window, then I think it only makes sense that we would find a way to approve it in a more natural way.
So, in the more natural way,
Is
so
find a
as
way
far as
that-
the variance is concerned,
Yep, to look at it and say this is a unique lot size and give them the benefit of the doubt rather than try to angle through some nonsense of creating a window and putting it in there when it does the exact same thing.
But when he was discussing that they wanted to stay consistent with their rebranding, that would be outside of their consistency in the rebranding, so maybe they wouldn't even be going that direction at that point.
Maybe
I was
not.
in front of the
Oh,
Veterans
setbacks.
Memorial coming down here, and you can see the iconic M from a quarter mile up the road, eighth mile up the road, so I don't think it's any.
But I think we just agreed that we would give them the approval if they did this nuanced window with the M inside
I
it.
don't think
Not
we all
necessarily.
discussed that.
Yeah, I think it would have to go, that would have to be approved through planning, correct? It wouldn't just be a carte blanche file a permit and do it, correct?
I mean, I thought I heard that we would have site plan review and acknowledge it as compliant. And if that's the case, then why wouldn't we just figure out a way to allow them the opportunity to do it the way they initially want to do it? And I don't know where the harm would be to allow them to brand the side of their building.
Yeah, it's not so much I'm looking at it as the harm, but they're already at the code with 2 signs. There are plenty of other establishments around that could use, more extensive signage that the town bylaw restricts them from or keeps them from. And this is pretty well lit up. I don't see it as being detriment to their business at all.
I don't know why we treat them different from Walgreens, if that's the way we made Walgreens do it.
I wasn't here,
Nor was I. It sounds like that's what they made them do, so I don't know why they.
which, it sounds like that's why we went to town meeting with the in-law apartment, right? Because it didn't make sense, right? The bylaw didn't make sense. And maybe we're gonna be going to town meeting to say this should be done on a special permit basis versus a variance basis.
But we're not at town meeting.
No.
We're in the zoning board, and these are our bylaws.
I'm just looking at too, we don't need to be Route 1 in Saugus either, it's pretty,
But we don't want to be anti-business either.
I don't think it looks pretty nice, they did a great job, I don't think they're gonna be lacking for business at all with what they've established there. I don't think another M, a third sign in the building is gonna affect their business one way or another. If I thought it was going to affect their business and they absolutely needed it, I'd be leaning that direction. I don't think an M breaking away from the town bylaw for McDonald's is gonna make a difference at all for them, besides what, their rebranding.
I'm just gonna look at 704. We're looking at 704B, 704C. I'll share.
Doesn't seem like there's a lot of wiggle room there.
No. One wall sign for each lot, street frontage of each establishment, provided it shall be attached and parallel to the main wall of the building. The surface area of the sign shall not aggregate more than 10% the area of the wall on which it is displayed, or 40 square feet, whichever is lesser, and if lighted, it shall be illuminated internally or by indirect method only. That's B.
Does it define what a sign is?
We're getting.
Yep.
So, then C is one pole sign for each street frontage lot held in single ownership regardless of the number of businesses on that lot. It may be double-faced, but shall not exceed 40 square feet in surface area per side. No portion of it shall be set back less than 10 feet from any street lot line. It shall not be erected so that any portion of it is over 30 feet above the ground or sidewalks, and if lighted, it shall be illuminated internally or by indirect method with white light only. That's what we're dealing with.
I think pretty much the only thing we have here is it's 3 signs.
Right.
Right, and he was clear on
Yeah.
that,
Mhm.
and the variances,
Yep.
so. Mr. Feeney, would you like to interject?
I don't know, I'm just trying to think it through. I mean, what Mark says makes sense, but so, what everybody else, says makes sense. You don't want it to become Route 1 and the North Shore, and you don't want everyone else, coming in and asking for the same thing, but, so I don't know, I guess I'm a little bit up in the air right now, leaning towards, hey, that's the bylaw. We're here as a board to interpret the bylaws. So, I mean, I could go either way, but I think I'm leaning towards, it's the bylaw, that's what we're supposed to enforce, and that's our job. So I guess I'm leaning more towards that way, but I see both sides, so.
Okay, thank you. Heidi, do you have anything to interject?
No, other than when we went through the whole Wendy's thing, that they wanted an extra sign on the side, and that was denied because they had already had their signage, and I just think it's clear. I understand the branding piece of it, but McDonald's is McDonald's. It's on the internet. When you say, where's McDonald's near me, we'll find it for you. So, I mean, it's clear where it is. And the M in the front could go on the side because they already have the big sign if they really needed it, if it was for that purpose. So I think we should stick with the bylaws personally.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to the public. Any questions or comments from the public?
Any word from any abutters? Any abutters have anything to say about it?
If you're dialing in, again, you need to press star
We
6.
already closed. They already-
Yeah,
Oh.
we did.
Oh, geez. It's been a long day.
So Andrew, there was no abutters that objected, anything?
No abutters object. Planning didn't interject.
I don't know what the comment was, but I don't think they had, I think he said it was up to the board.
Okay. So I think at this point, I will go to a vote, and we'll just see, I think we've had enough discussion on it, and see where we end up with a vote. So I am going to do this I think I'm going to deny the variance and make a motion to deny the variance in accordance with 305-10.11 of the Marshfield Municipal Code for relief from 305-7.04B and 305-704C, with the argument that the shape of the lot is inconsistent with our bylaw requirement as unique. Anybody else like to add to that? No? Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor of denying the variance?
Chris Bellisos, deny the variance.
Larry Keane, deny.
Lynn Fiddler, deny.
Mark Stiles, deny.
Steve Feeney, deny.
Heidi
Eddie Conway,
Conway?
deny. Deny.
So, Mr. Lucas, this board has denied this variance with a vote of 5-0. The voting members will be Larry Keane, Lynn Fiddler, Mark Stiles, Steve Feeney, and Heidi Conway. All righty?
So file your decision within 20 days.
Yes,
14 days.
the decision will be filed, and if you have any questions or additional comments, that you can run those past Nancy and our administrator, and you'll have 20 days after that. So please reach out to her with anything that you need to. Okay?
No problem. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Same to you. Okay. So, we have case 2183, Samuel Speakman. Hi, welcome. I'm going to read this into the record. The petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-6.8, 305-9.02, 305-9.04, and 305-10.12 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to raise the existing dwelling above the base flood elevation, retain the same location on the lot, and construct a 16-foot by 24-foot deck on the property located at 274 Foster Ave, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel L10-22-03 and is located in an R3 zoning district. My name is Lynn Fiddler, and I will be your hearing officer. Let's let you explain the project to us as Andrew prepares your submissions.
Good evening. My name is Paul Bakis with Grady Consulting on behalf of the applicant, Sam Speakman. As you had indicated, the intent of this project is to elevate an existing dwelling above the floodplain elevation. The lot itself is approximately 4,076 square feet, which is less than the 5,000 square feet. And the intent is to keep the current location of the dwelling in terms of setbacks, some of which are obviously non-conforming, and modifications to decks, steps, and accessory structures around the sides of the dwelling. The intent is to not reduce any dimensional requirements or further encroach upon the setbacks that already exist today.
Alrighty, so you'll see in front of you the site plan. And I have a large site plan here for us to take a look at. So So this project, the building will remain as is with just changes to the windows. I noticed there was no floor plan submitted with this project. However, I did notice that several of the windows are being changed and whatnot.
So the intent is to keep the floor plan. There'd be alterations to the sides of the, the windows and whatnot, yes. But the intent is to keep the same floor plan. I can submit a floor plan if it's required.
Okay, Andrew, have you had a chance to look through this project?
As I understand it, it's elevating the current structure, correct?
Correct.
So really, ultimately, that's, we're all in favor of that, So ultimately, they've been to Concom. I believe you guys were continued at the last hearing.
Correct.
And then they're going to be deciding on, ultimately, they will decide on the type of foundation that gets used for the elevation project through the Concom delineation, but of their order of conditions. But as far as, what they're doing is they're just taking a non-conforming house and they're elevating it to make it conform with the flood zone requirements.
Okay, so on the left front corner on the proposed diagram, if you could zoom in on that. The decks come down, okay, go up a little bit. Up. Doop, doop. I'm looking at that 2.7, which go up, Andrew, with your push up.
You mean
Yeah,
towards the
yeah,
street?
towards the, okay, stop. So
Stairs.
the stairs on the left, we're looking at 2.7, and they were at 3.8 in the existing.
The existing stairs do not meet building code. They are narrow.
Okay, so you're becoming more non-conforming on those stairs. I'm going to allow you, I'm going to allow you to share with the board the reasoning for that.
Because the house, again, the same floor plan is being retained, that is the primary access and egress point. The existing stairs do not meet the state building code, so it requires a wider set of stairs. The current side setback under existing conditions is 1.1, which is the deck on the other side. So we are, in terms of side setbacks, the improvement is to 2.7 because of these, as a result of these stairs.
Where's the 1.1?
The 1.1 is the side lot line from the deck on the other side. So
They're existing non-conforming on that side already, though, too.
Right. But they're making it more non-conforming on this side.
They are, but because they're in the side setback, it's a special permit. If they weren't in the side setback, then it would be a variance.
I believe there's also a condition as far as elevating the structure. They're allowed to, for
Access
egress.
is allowed to be inside the side setback
Yep.
when you're elevating for flood purposes.
Right. You also have the impervious surface change outlined, which Andrew, if you'd go up. We'll just get this on the record
Where
as
do you
well.
want? Lynn, I'm
Keep
sorry.
going up, center of the, to the left. Ah. I feel like I need to, okay, down. Stop. In the middle, underneath, okay, shoot. This is what's hard. I'm sorry, Andrew. Okay, stop, now go up. There you go. Why is it not on? Wait a minute, stop. It's below rear view, and you don't have it. Are you looking at sheet 1 of 1? Dated 10/21/2022?
the table you may be asking about was added after the first conservation meeting, and that may have been the printouts, the hard copy printouts I submitted.
Yeah, that
So
was.
we're working at two separate,
Yeah,
That was the
that
only
impervious
change.
table, I believe, or that was part of Concom's request at their last hearing, was to update their submittal with Concom.
okay, all right. I'm just, because it's part of the plan and we're here in front of the ZBA.
Yep.
I understand it's a Concom thing, but it is 1,214 square feet change in a reduction of your impervious surface area for this particular lot. The other thing that drew my attention was the proposed saw cut that's going to be on the abutter to the left, which is 278 Foster Avenue. Would you explain, I know you've got asphalt there, I know that the property boundary comes through the abutter's staircase, which are wood steps and wood steps off the back, but if you would comment on that.
Our intent would not to be to saw cut any of the abutters' asphalts. It would be basically essentially right up to the property line so that the applicant can put sand instead of asphalt along the side of the property. So there would still be a swath of asphalt, but it's the abutters' asphalt, it's not the applicant's asphalt.
Okay. And then the silt, I noticed there's a silt fence as well. Upland, wetland, I don't understand where that's coming into play. On your plans? Do you have a wetland area, or is this part of this templating of this plan?
It's the entire property is a barrier beach, and it's also a coastal dune. And so that's the reason for the soil erosion control measures.
And you're in front of us, if it's a coastal dune. Ah. Any other questions from the board? This is a pretty tight project.
All set, Lynn.
I'm sorry?
I'm all set.
You're all set. Any questions from the public? Again, if you're dialing in, you need to press *6. Okay. Any further comments from the applicant? Anything else you'd like to add
No.
before I close?
Nope.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to close case 2183.
Larry Keane, second.
Second by Larry. All those in favor of closing?
Chris Belzos, aye.
Larry Keane, aye.
Lynn Fiddler, aye.
Mark Stiles, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Heidi Conway?
Aye.
Closed. So 608, we're here for 608, 9.02, 9.04, and of course 10.12. Here's my stuff. I think I have it on here too. General dimensional and density provisions. I did have a question. So, Andrew, on on 6.08, number M, it says when floodproofing an existing home on a pre-existing non-conforming residential lot, one single-story, 32-square-foot utility addition or bump out located on the first floor may project into the side or rear setback. The utility addition is only for utilities such as furnaces, water heaters, and/or HVAC systems, and shall be above the minimum flood elevation. The owner shall provide the building department with proof of recording of a restrictive covenant on said utility addition prior to the issuance of the building permit. A minimum setback of 5 feet shall be maintained from the property line. Do you have any input on that? I know that we've been through this before.
Well, I mean, that's for the utility bump out.
Right, and this one has the gas line on the side. But is that the only?
Existing structure or
It's just been a
in
while since
appurtenance are already in the side setback.
Yeah.
You can allow that to continue, and it can even be more non-conforming, provided it's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the pre-existing non-conforming structure.
Okay, all right,
That's Belalta.
that's the same, okay, all right. It just, when I was reading it, okay,
Like a new projection for a utility is also permissible, and that doesn't have to be non-conforming.
it doesn't have to be. Right. And
But it's the non-conformity on that side of the existing structure, not the non-conformity on the opposite side, because each side stands on its own.
Okay,
Just because you
Does
have
everybody
a
understand that?
non-conforming side setback on the right side of a structure, doesn't mean you get to violate it on the
on the other,
left-hand
or the
side.
rear, or the, yeah,
Or the rear or the front,
Right.
for that matter.
right,
But if you're already violating. and
If you
have
violate it on the
need
same side, you can become more non-conforming with a special permit.
Based on access or utility.
Or just because it's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood.
If you're encroaching further,
You can get further close to the side lot line if you're already inside the side setback by special permit. If you weren't inside the side setback and you encroached in the side setback, then you'd require a variance, dimensional variance.
I've always looked at the special permit as you are not to go further into the setback. You can.
That is a special
You can
permit.
extend, but it would become a variance if we're gonna
Yeah,
approach
that's the
further.
Belalta case out of Brookline, that came down a couple of years ago.
which is here.
Right.
Now I bring
So-
it, because we
The
keep referring
purposes-
to Balat.
The allowable purposes of going into the setback further, creating a further nonconformity, a deeper, a more
Yeah.
You can create
robust.
You can create a more non-conforming structure by special permit where you're already in the side setback requirement. You can't create a new one, though.
Right, right.
But
I thought
it's,
you could extend, but you couldn't.
Well, I
create-
think before the Belalta case, that's exactly how everybody reviewed it. They said you could extend it along the same side setback, but you couldn't make it more non-conforming without a variance. Well, that was the same argument that the Brookline Zoning Board of Appeals made in Brookline with a floor area ratio requirement. And the SJC made it very clear that non-conforming residential structures are treated differently, and you can make it more non-conforming with a special permit, provided you find that it's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the pre-existing non-conforming use.
I'm not familiar with that.
for example, Mark, if somebody comes to me to talk about a project and I explain that to them, I say, by all means, you can propose it to the board, but there's no guarantee that they're going to allow you to
Because
make
of
it
the
more
special
non-conforming and approve your special permit request.
A neighbor could come in and say, that's too close to the lot line,
Absolutely.
there's not enough light and air
Fire
between our
danger, whatever.
properties, we don't want you to approve that, things like that.
if you want to take a peek at this, it's here at the end. All right, so 9.4 is a reduction or increase also in non-conforming uses structures. And that is, any non-conforming lot shall not be changed in any way that would reduce any dimensional requirements in 305-6.02, Table of Dimensional and Density Regulations, so we're fine. Any required open space shall not be reduced as to make it non-conforming, we're fine. No building area or floor already non-conforming shall be changed so as to be in greater non-conformity. That one's fine as well. 10.12, I think that's in Bob's. 10.12, the board is very familiar with this as well. Items 1 through 10. Do we feel that this hearing meets those criteria? Just take a vote, 10.12?
Yes.
We good?
I'm good.
We good? Mark, you're okay with the items 1 through 10 on 10.12?
Yep.
I am too.
Okay. Heidi, are you good?
Yep.
Okay. So did I do everything? Just want to make sure one more thing. Alrighty. Any special conditions? Obviously, you haven't finished at Concom, so if anything comes up in that decision that affects this board, the applicant will be back in front of the ZBA. Planning, we were all set with Nancy. I think I asked that question. So we're good. All right. I'd like to make a motion to grant the special permit in accordance with 6.08, 9.02, 9.04, and 10.12, acknowledging that the board has reviewed those bylaws and are in agreement that this application does meet the criteria to raise the existing dwelling above the base flood elevation. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor, you will be voting on this, Chris. All those in favor?
Aye, Chris Bellizos.
Larry Keane, aye.
Lynn Fiddler, aye.
Mark Stiles, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Heidi Conway?
Aye.
Alrighty. So you are approved, and Nancy will have the information to you. On any questions, you can reach out to her.
Thank you for your
All
time.
right, thank you. Alrighty, moving right along. Okay, we are in our hearings where we are closed, and we have a hearing in front of us that is waiting for a deliberation, which is Webster Point Village LLC. This particular hearing is a request. They have an existing comprehensive permit with the board, and we determined that the changes that were requested were substantial changes at a September 8th, 2021 zoning board meeting. We closed this hearing at the previous hearing a couple weeks ago. I understand there has been a draft decision. Bob, I'd like to explain to the board a position with a draft decision made by,
Attorney Dennis Murphy submitted
This is it.
a draft decision and some findings. I did have some email communications with one of the attorneys for the developer. Kind of, my communications were just kind of an effort to see if there was some type of middle ground, but I didn't really see any middle ground, and basically told that we would lose if we made any other decision other than to grant them what they were looking for. So the findings and decision are from Attorney Dennis Murphy, and he's asking the board to basically not allow the change to the comprehensive permit, which would result in a deletion of condition 8. In sum and substance, he said that the restriction was a requirement accepted by the developer and included in an earlier comprehensive permit, notwithstanding a separate and distinct requirement from Mass Division of Fisheries and Wildlife. Attorney Murphy contends that in 2015, the board denied a similar request to delete the conservation restriction requirement. He indicates that Webster Point Village appealed that decision in August of 2015 and then withdrew that appeal with prejudice. The Housing Appeals Committee then approved the withdrawal with prejudice, thereby foreclosing Webster Point Village from making the current request for the very same requirement. He's asking the board to reject the argument that the conservation restriction requirement is impossible and duplicative of the separate declaration of restrictions. And he contends that Webster Point Village presented no evidence that the conservation restriction was impossible. He claims that the board is in possession of evidence from Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs that reviews those restrictions that states just the opposite. And he points to an email communication to Webster Point Village dated March 5th of 2020 from John Gioa, which rejected any suggestion that the relevant land could not be subject to a conservation restriction. Similarly, he says that the board has responses from Mass Audubon, the grantee of hundreds of conservation restrictions across the state, as well as the Wildlands Trust, that the subject land readily supports the imposition of a restriction. He's asking that the board define that there are legal and practical differences between a declaration of restriction and a conservation restriction, that those are significant and cannot be substituted for one another, because the declaration of restriction grants no rights to a third party, including enforcement rights, and it's only relevant to a particular permit, and that's the conservation and management permit that was issued by the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife. He argues that Webster Point Village remains out of compliance and in violation of the board's December 13, 2012 vote, whereby you authorize an extension of the permit. And the extension required the applicant to adhere to a settlement agreement negotiated with the abutters. His contention is that White Barn I have a case in Norwell, White Barn Village. White Barn Lane. Webster Point Village seeks to delete a material term of the agreement, and that petition violates the settlement agreement. He also maintains that Webster Point Village remains out of compliance in violation of the board's October 15, 2019 vote, authorizing an extension of the comprehensive permit for 6 months. That's under appeal, and it's still pending, that appeal. So, that's the argument advanced by the abutters.
Okay.
And, just kind of rehash, Attorney Bagley argued that they've made good faith efforts to contact all available restriction holders that would typically hold restrictions, and none indicated they were willing to do that at any reasonable cost. So the applicant has claimed that the declaration of restriction and the conservation and management permit are the functional equivalent of it. I will tell you, I did get an email from counsel for the applicant yesterday, Dragan Cetrovic, and I'll tell you in substance what it says.
So when we're closed and we have communications going back and
Yep.
forth,
Yep.
what's the legal,
Board doesn't
Dilemma.
have, you don't have any obligation to accept anything after the hearing is closed.
so we have to hear it and then, I mean, we don't have to hear
You
it.
don't have to
we-
hear any new evidence. You can rely on what you have in front of you already.
Okay. So before.
But I think where I read to you what
The other, I
the other
think-
attorney was
right.
suggesting as a recommended decision,
That
that I
both
should tell
sides
you
of the coin.
what, Attorney Setrovic said.
Okay,
He's asking if the zoning board would accept a deed restriction. Each deed would have the following language, as shown on the lotting plan. Webster Point Village has designated an area of no disturbance. The area is a buffer zone for the benefit of the Webster Point Village homeowners and the abutters of Duck Hill Road and Prince Circle. In accordance with said bylaws, the Webster Point Village Homeowner Association, together with the subdivision owners of the Webster Point Village, shall be jointly and severally responsible to maintain the area in its natural state in perpetuity. Each designated area of non-disturbance is shown on the lotting plans. It's also saying, together with other subdivision owners of Webster Point Village, they'll be jointly and severally responsible to maintain and repair all retention basins, drainage swales, entrance monuments, retaining walls, culvert drains, and other culvert grates, and the area of no disturbance as shown on the lotting plans. If either the town at any time has to maintain or repair such facilities, repair costs will be billed equally to all subdivision owners, and if not paid, such costs shall be added to the tax bills as a lien on their property. Should any homeowner encroach on this area of no disturbance, such homeowner shall be responsible to pay for costs associated with the mitigation of the area. So I think his proposal was, if you approve it, his client would agree to those restrictions. So these are in the nature of proposed findings submitted by both attorneys.
okay. So I was part of this original, comprehensive permit. It was I thought it was a very thorough and very, back and forth deliberation, and we were working with everybody, and when we were done, we all breathed a sigh of relief because I thought that we had some genuinely solid grounds to protect the town, to protect our interests as a board and our understanding of what's important with a 40B going forward. Now, we've seen a 40B going forward, which, as you all know, is Madeira, and this particular project is it's, I don't want to say it's overwhelming. I want to understand and listen to both sides of the story, but as far as them proposing a restriction, when the original natural heritage permit has the grantee being eventually their homeowners association, unless I interpreted it incorrectly, gives a I think this board a difficult position where the CR, from my standpoint, protects the town, and I am really leaning towards the importance of the CR, and a restriction is subpar to that conservation restriction. So I know we have other attorneys here that have bring a different perspective to the importance of a conservation restriction, and I'm sure you understand it as well, and Heidi's a real estate agent, she understands the importance of it, but I'd like to have a healthy discussion on these points and be able to move forward, and I mean, Marshfield, a 40B can be a great thing, but I'd like to see it happen, and it's been going on and on, so that's where I stand. I'm sure I may have something else to say, but Anybody else want to join in this discussion?
Real quick, they made a comment that, that there'd been no evidence presented, that nobody was willing to accept that all we've had from the developer saying that they can't find anybody. If they presented anything saying from any groups or environmental groups or Audubon,
They
they
have
presented anything that
slew
said-
of,
they won't take it? The comment I heard was that they haven't presented anything saying, in writing, confirming that they're just saying they can't find anybody. As Audubon,
no, they have letters that are,
Okay.
that they're supporting their argument. I can ask Andrew to pull them up onto the board. Would you like me to do that?
no.
Or do you feel like,
Yeah,
so we don't
I'll
have
go if they
to,
have
we
them,
don't
say
have
no
to,
comment.
this is just a preliminary discussion. We can go to a vote this evening if we all feel like we have uncovered information that we need to uncover, or we can hold off. I think that we
I
need
think
to
you, I
have,
think you really need to make a decision on
we
this.
need
Yeah,
to
this
make
has been going on
tonight.
an awful long time.
Okay. So,
This was the first step to what I would say would be as close to a solution as they could come to with offering deed restrictions on all of the owners of the project. But my take on this is that there was an agreement to have a conservation restriction, and because it's challenging is not enough of a reason to eliminate it. I don't buy that it's impossible. I think it might be costly, but I don't think it's impossible. And to take it a step further, there's the agreement between the abutters that we'd be invalidating, and I don't think we're in the position or have the jurisdiction to do that. So I would continue to say that they need to find a holder of that conservation restriction, and that we can't really bend on that.
okay, so you and I are kind of on the same. Do you have any input as
No,
well?
I'm in agreement.
You're in agreement with those
You
arguments?
and Mark, is that who's spoken thus far?
Okay. Heidi? Can you,
Sorry.
no, you're good. Can you share any information or comments on Webster Point
No, I mean,
Village?
it was a really, really long Webster Point. That whole thing took forever. I think we dissected it every which way we could. And I think that if they really didn't think they could have gotten it, then they should have appealed it, which didn't happen. So I think we need to stick with it and might need to dig a little deeper to get one.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So in light of that, does the board feel that this is in opposition to their motion to amend this comprehensive permit? Do we feel like we would like to put this up on the board and work through this, or what's the best
Well, I think you need
scenario?
to decide whether you want to approve the further amendment as proposed or deny it. And if you approve it, you also have the ability to approve it with conditions. Those are your options. Approve as proposed, approve with conditions, or deny. And it's only this aspect of the permit that's at issue.
Just number 8, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I am hearing that the board is, so you're voting on this. So I am hearing that the board is in a position of denying this motion to amend. So I would move forward and ask the board to second that and deny their motion to amend. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Of denying,
Of denying their motion to amend.
I'm in favor, Chris Bellows in favor of denying the motion to amend.
Larry Keane in favor to deny.
Deny. Lynn Fiddler, deny the motion to amend.
Mark Stiles deny the motion to amend.
Steve Haynes denied the motion as well.
Heidi Conway,
Deny. the motion.
All right. So with a vote of 5-0 and the sixth being an associate, we are denying Webster Point Village's request to amend the comprehensive permit, specifically number 8. All right.
Issue a written decision.
So, yes, so Nancy, I think that the written decision will work through with Attorney Galvin.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Beyond my pay grade.
okay.
But who's voting on this one?
So so that was a vote from Larry, and Chris will be on the next one. So we had 40 days to render our decision from the November 9th, so I believe we're due December 17th. Is that correct?
I believe the hearing officer in this case, when the hearing officer sent this case back, asked you to render a decision in a certain period of time that's quicker than that.
Okay,
So I think you should render the decision by the next meeting.
by the next meeting?
Yep.
Okay, so that gives you the 14th. So you'll be working, and then I will understand what that is about. Okay, all right. All righty. All right. So now it is 7:45, and I'd like to limit the discussion on 2159A so we can all get home to our families. We have a holiday week. I know that this is a very extensive submission hearing. We have so many things here. I do know that we kept the written record open, and we did receive a plan. So if Andrew wouldn't mind putting that plan up on the board up on the screen for the board alone to discuss. So I think we're gonna just start with this, and then we're gonna propose a agenda, line items for the next hearing, and get into the coastal wetlands criteria and the actual 10.12 and 10.10. So, since Chris, you proposed this change and the,
Well, I asked him
Chad
how
Brennan,
low
I
he
know.
could go.
I know, so let's just get to this particular part of the puzzle. If you have any comments on his response.
Only to note that he's basically taken out one row of car parking, in essence. And I think 2 spaces of the trailers, is that correct? 2 or 3?
Yeah, I think I looked at it, So I believe that there's a change in the format of the parking spaces across the front. And then there was, Andrew, would you mind zooming in a little bit? So 30 feet, 68 across the back for the turning, so if the trailers were coming in, the length of the trailer spaces are 60 feet, so they would proceed down and make the turn. They've got a larger perimeter to work with, and the 56 feet between is also, has also been expanded. I had notes. But you're right, the actual scope of work did not change. What, in my opinion, did change was the amount of space on parking lot itself by eliminating those. All right, I need to take that. So. There was 7 across the front, and then 9, and then there was 18 trailer, so I'm gonna just tell you where, there was, yeah, you're right. So where it says 8, yikes. think I understand. We were at 18 trailer spaces. Now we're at 16. We were at, if I did the math right, 94 car spaces, and now we are at 70 and 16, with 56 feet between. So this drawing has, that's the second one, 56 feet. The first one does not delineate the difference, but they took off the second row of 27 spaces. So you're down to, you've got a longer area between the parked cars and the trailer spaces. So correct me if I'm wrong, allowing a trailer to go down to the right, turn, and then exit out without being, without cars backing into that area. That's one change I did notice. So, this hearing is closed. Can you go back to the first, please? And then we got 41 feet off the back. Sir, if you can't be quiet, you need to okay. It was her?
I was talking to her.
Oh, okay. Okay. Are we all trying to get our heads around this new site plan with the new parking? Do we have any comments?
There's 94 car spaces there
94 car spaces, correct, with
on
18.
the original one.
Correct.
And 18 trailer spaces.
Correct, that's what I have, yep.
But we're disturbing the exact amount of area, right?
We have the exact same amount of area. We're reducing the trailer spaces by 2 trailer spaces, but allowing, I don't know if it's increased, this 68 feet is increased off the back now. I'm
It
guessing they're 2
appears to be,
spaces
yeah.
shorter, so they've increased it because they're 2 spaces shorter off the back.
So it went from roughly 48 to now 68. So it's
Right.
a lot easier to traverse.
Right, and then your,
And the gap between the
the
two sets of
gap has
parking is
increased, so.
considerably bigger.
Exactly. So there may be a better safety scenario now because the parking, the noses of each of the cars would be,
So does that allow everybody to take a right out of there rather than going through the neighborhood, which is what was
so
one of the
we
big
would have to
concerns?
condition a right-hand turn leaving or come up with, I mean, that's another, so these are the discussions we're gonna need to have. But I just wanted to make sure that we all saw this. This is part of our record now, and I wanted, where you had this.
Understood.
The only problem is if you have a right-hand turn when you're leaving, how do they get back
They
up to
can't
the
get back
pier
to get their
pick up
boat.
Right.
the boat? So it's kind of hard to do that.
Well,
If
but
any-
we have the ability to address some of the conditions down in the existing parking lot as part of this?
We could make a modification to their
You could
existing
require it as a
site
condition
plan.
of approving this.
Because I think that, look, this is better, I think, than it was in terms of space and in terms of size and scope. Certainly safer than what was originally proposed, but until you address the way that the south end of the current parking lot is striped, you're not going to address the traffic concerns because you can't take a left to get out of there.
Right. So we have,
Andrew, could you get the overhead of the existing lot?
Of the what?
The existing lot, the pier?
Town pier parking lot.
You can't take a left out of there?
You can, but you'd have to be
the way
quite
that,
the
yeah,
contortionist to
the
do it.
actual, it's okay on the
On the north end.
north side, the
Not on the
south
south
side with the spaces heading down, yeah. So, we had site plan approval, case 17-50. For the board to take a look at your leisure. We also have case, and you should have this available, we also have case 1608 for the board to also. But that is that is for the pavilion across the street and the improvements to Harbor Park. Which you also have to remember that this parking lot isn't proposed to just serve the harbor master. It's also proposed to serve the Harbor Walk, if I can read that correctly.
Andrew, can you zero in on
With the renovations of
south-
Harbor.
south end of that existing lot? I want to see the striping. The existing lot, not the dirt lot. I'm talking about the Harbor Pier lot.
You would, I have it on my phone someplace. Did you find it, Andrew?
So the north side, you can certainly take a left turn.
Right, but to get on the south end, here's the issue.
Got it.
You can't,
So by eliminating a couple spots on that parking lot, you'd be able to do it, right?
Well, if the stripes went the other way, you could do it,
Yeah.
at least in that front row.
so we have
But if we're adding parking, we could take 2 from there, 2, maybe 3,
Fair enough, yeah, you could do that too.
and require a left-hand turn out of there. That would alleviate a lot of,
Yep.
no,
Sure. What we're discussing is an attempt to restripe or allow for a left turn, the mandatory left turn out of the southeast section of the Harbor Pier parking lot.
So the site plan approval for the parking lot that you're describing, I'm going to just say parking lot A.
is this all part of the same parcel?
It is part of the same parcel. The board reserves the right under 12.028 to modify or amend this approval on the application of the owner, leasee, mortgagee, or of the premises, or upon its own motion with or without notice. So is that accurate, that this board can make modification? Do they have to come, what's the
That's what you've always,
procedure?
that's been a condition in your
Right.
approvals for
Forever.
as many years as I can recall.
But I don't recall actually the
It's-
board
it's
taking
used
the
it before.
initiative. We have?
I recall circumstances where it's
Perhaps.
used it.
Okay, so,
You can do whatever you want with respect to the matter that's in front of you, and it's the same site. So if
Okay.
you decide that you wanted to make another condition,
we make it for
you
both.
make the condition.
Okay, all right. All right, so it appears that this would be up, so as far as at the next hearing, so the striping on, I'm gonna call it parking lot A,
Main parking lot.
main, good, main parking lot, currently the main parking lot.
Do 1 from the inside row, and 2 from the outside row.
Yeah,
That should do the trick.
2 from that inside row there.
Or, 2 from each, just give them more room to.
But you could also create like a
A
curb,
curb cut to force them.
yeah.
So where would you propose a curb cut?
So if you,
The lower right
if you
corner.
were down here, Lynn.
So right now, they pull right out onto the street.
They just go straight, it's
Yeah, right.
It's super dangerous down there, you guys, when you can't walk from Harbor Park over to the Maritime Building or to the Point or to the docks. It's very dangerous. You know, they still haven't made any accommodations for the safety aspect of it for pedestrians and the people walking around down there. I mean, I just don't, the questions weren't even answered. You know, there was no plan in place and there still isn't one. just kind of worried about it. Even if we take off a couple spaces, that alleviates some going down Central, but it doesn't help with the pedestrians and nothing to stop them. You can't see them if you're in trucks and it's just, I don't know.
But isn't that what we're trying to do right now, is create a little,
That's what their
Well-
job should have been, I think, to be honest with you. I don't think this is what we should be doing. I think that they should have had a more complete plan personally to, especially when it was asked.
but how is
No.
a parking lot gonna make it more unsafe? It's,
Because you're
the
adding.
people
more
are coming,
traffic to a-
the people are coming regardless. right?
Okay, so they're gonna go someplace else if they can't park here, or he's gonna have to find a better plan. And then you're gonna add more parking, but you still haven't addressed the safety aspect of it. It's, even if you add more parking to it, that's more people waiting, that's more cars, trucks idling, waiting to get into the water, which was established at the last meeting, and there's no safety plan at all.
So I think her argument, there's no, so if you're at the Harbor Master Building and you run into, use the bathroom or whatever, you're just, there is no sidewalk to get yourself back to the Harbor Walk.
Everybody does the.
Yeah,
Excuse
and
me.
The whole thing,
I've had it.
what?
Sorry, Heidi. You cannot interrupt this board when we're in a closed hearing. If you can't control yourself, you're going to need to leave. Go ahead. Go ahead, Heidi.
Okay, yeah, there's no means to get from one unless you walk all the way around, but yet there's cars that come in and out of there. That's where all the trucks and everything are gonna be idling to get in to launch their boats. There's nothing, and I think that should have been the number one priority, where we're adding more parking. They established that they wanted it not just for maritime, which I'm a little confused about. If it's an accessory use to the maritime, how can it be used for other things? And maybe that's just what I don't understand. But if they're gonna get into the, the Chamber of Commerce, having their kind of stuff in there, they all spoke up about it. What happened to the walkability? What happened to all that? Like the safety aspect and people being able to walk around safely? That is not happening down here at all. There's a lot of people that walk around there. You know, they walk the whole loop, they walk that whole area there, and there's just nothing in place for that, and there was no plan for it. Even when I asked about it, I thought I missed it. No explanation. There's clearly different phases that are gonna be happening here. I just think it needs to be better thought out, better planned, and I actually thought that the new revised plan that he got was actually gonna shrink the whole space, not just take out a row and amend a couple. I thought he was gonna shrink the whole space, which is, I thought that was the request, but I could be, mistaken with that. I'm not saying we don't need more parking down there, but I think that needs to be a little bit better thought out, to be honest with you.
Right.
And I don't think that's our job to figure that out for them.
Real quick, I think Heidi brings up some excellent points with this, and two, where this is a revision to the plan, and we do only have a couple of abutters, without getting crazy, could we take comment from the public and see if this is
No.
more palatable,
No,
even where there's been a change?
I do not want to take comment from the public at this point.
Okay.
Does it make sense to go back to the applicant with Heidi's further concerns?
Heidi was very clear in her questions, and the applicant, his response, my interpretation of his response was, we'll do whatever you want us to do. However, that isn't our job. She's 100%, she's correct. It's our responsibility to uphold the bylaws, and why we are here are to ask ourselves, does this parking lot meet the bylaw? So we could go down the bylaws and ask ourselves those specific questions and just get right to it at the next hearing. But we can also take the exercise of, we can take the exercise of coming up with solutions for this applicant. It is the town, and I know that this is the police, the harbor master is under the purview of the police department. I would think safety would be a high priority, and I'm sure it is a high priority. So,
They're an applicant just like anybody else. would
they
be.
are an applicant just like anybody else. So,
Can I just ask
We're
a question? What if
currently
any,
at the
what if
20-minute
anything been
mark.
done so far before this plan, before this project that was before us to deal with the safety issues? The safety issues have been there. It's a parking lot, right? We know it's a parking lot.
Yep.
And I, you know, I see, you know, it's part of a, you know, maybe, I have no idea if it's an overall plan or whatever it is, but people do walk there. They want it to be attractive to pedestrians, but it's a parking lot. So what steps have been taken prior to this to come up with safety standards? If it's been like this for a long time, no one's addressed any safety issues, and now they become an issue. Well, there were safety issues before, and there's safety issues now, depending which way you go, but no one addressed them before, and now we're gonna address them now because we're increasing parking spots. It's a parking lot. So that's just the flip side of the argument.
Yeah, but as Heidi pointed out with that, you're making a major expansion of the parking lot, it needs to be addressed. So we're going in one direction without addressing the initial concerns.
But doesn't the additional parking, in theory, make it safer?
Not
Because
really.
those
'cause you're
cars are
bringing in-
off the road.
To me, you're bringing in, you know, how many more trailer spaces, large trailers you're bringing in? That's just an increase, so increasing the capacity of large trailers into the parking lot isn't gonna make it any safer to me without addressing it.
It doesn't address the
Pedestrian
safety
concerns.
issues, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt, with pedestrians at all. It's gonna make it worse, because now you're gonna have more trucks or cars, or whoever's pulling the boats with their trailers idling, waiting, and there's pedestrians that are gonna come. So he said before, it was 4, 5, 6. Now you're gonna have even more waiting. So I just don't see where any of this is properly addressed. And I'm not disagreeing that we don't need some revisions, but the whole part of the Maritime building was it was gonna be more accessible to the public, and, everybody could come down there, and the bathroom's gonna be for you, like this whole big thing, but yet it's really not about the public and the people who live around there, or the people that walk there. It's not about that at all, so I'm just concerned that point is being missed. That's where I'm at with it.
But Green Harbor is not a private club for the Green Harbor area either, right? Like this
No, you
is,
said it was. I'm not talking about a private club, this is a public, which was my point exactly. You have a lot of public traffic there. You're adding cars and people. There's a very big safety issue, even just crossing Harbor Park parking lot to the Harbor Park right now, the way the cars fly up and down there. Now we're gonna add even more, and the sight line for trucks and trailers waiting, it is gonna be a nightmare. And you have to be able to go down there and see it. They're gonna be going right back into Drybeck Way. It's just not gonna be, it's a safety issue, 100%, that I just think should have been, 100% part of the plan. And if it was any, I just think any applicant, like, we would be saying the same thing, because I think that, it has just not been addressed, and it doesn't matter if it was addressed before or not. Now that we know what the issues are, could have been an oversight, I'm not really sure. And now that we know what the issues are, now that we know what the issues are, and now we're gonna add more parking to it, it's gonna make it so much worse. And it's not about just being Green Harbor or Brent Rock. It's about the town of Marshfield and the safety aspect over here.
should we talk about some of the other issues?
Yeah. So highlighted is safety. So we are, as far as this actual application, they're in front of us for 10.10, 10.12, 13.02. So for the next hearing, I would like the board to pay close attention to the requirements of 13.02. I don't need to read them out loud, but, 1 through 4, particularly, purpose of the district. B, 1 through 4. In particular, the, so, permitted uses, municipal uses such as wastewater treatment facilities, waterworks, pumping stations, and then the town meeting included, a few years back, a maritime service and safety facility, comma, essential services in parks are permitted in this district. Land in the coastal wetlands district may be used for any purpose otherwise permitted in the underlying district except that. So I'd like to make sure that the board is aware we're gonna go over that. No use shall be permitted to develop in such a manner as will adversely affect the natural character of the area. I would consider natural character the marshes. Does it impact the marshes? Does it impact the river? You may have other thoughts as well. So it's currently 8:15. Are there any other? So we have, and then we also have 10.10, which we're all familiar with. And then 10.12. So this applicant came in front of us originally for 10.10, and then the non-conforming use or structure, they came back again. That's why there's an A next to it, so. And are there any other comments for this evening? Safety seems to be a hot topic for this project. Are there any other topics that we need to delve into?
Well, some of the neighborhood issues was, is this a wetland?
Right.
Are we disturbing wetland, and do we have scientific proof that this is safe to do?
Right. So there are responses to, Jason Zimmer went out, Conservation has made their determination on this particular lot. I understand that it's upland, it is no longer wetland. So
Everybody agree with that?
can you, I don't know if you'd be able to find Pat Brennan,
I mean,
had
the
a
material was taken from
response
the water,
to-
so if anything, they've created a wetland, right?
they've
By
created a wetland.
taking the dredge spoils and
They perhaps eliminated their wetland and created an upland.
well,
But I'm not a conservationist, and I am going on entirely on,
I'm not suggesting that this is wetland, upland, or otherwise. I'm suggesting that there's a question that was brought up by all of the objectors. that
Right, so this is
potentially wetland.
This is potentially a response by, it's by Pat Brennan dated October 26th. And Pam Keith has given us several submissions for this hearing. So if you'd like to take the time to read this at your own leisure, and we'll discuss this at another time, or I'm happy, I had put an end time at 8:15 for this hearing. But I'm certainly happy to keep going at it, but I can read this aloud to you, but I don't think that is necessary. So,
Then one of the other issues that was raised was what we're actually approving.
what we're actually what?
One of the issues raised by Ms. Keefe was what we were actually approving. There was some question as to whether or not we were approving some dredging or future spoils or just a parking lot.
Yeah,
I'm just pointing out the issues that were raised.
Yeah, and I
Right.
think it's important that we point out all of the issues if we're gonna
right.
individually deliberate with these.
So,
So one of the other issues was, are we going to affect the ability to later dump material there, right?
so Rod had sent another email in response to that outlining
50,000 square feet.
50,000, and that was dated, just a second. There was a discussions about the phragmites, invasive
That's what I was suggesting.
species. There was discussions about Jason Zimmer and his communications with conservation, and that has, I feel is out of our preview, although I understood that the Board of Public Works, if we did approve this project, would do soil samplings. It's only in an email. I don't have a confirmation of that.
We could condition for that, right?
Yep. Plan of the land. I'm just looking. There was a lot of comments that it wasn't needed, and because it sits with empty spaces, the main parking lot sits with empty spaces, so this wasn't needed. That was another, whether it's needed or not needed, whether or not that question is part of our bylaws that we need to answer, we can get into that. But Jason Zimmer is the Mass Wildlife Southeast District Supervisor, and I know that the harbor parking lot is file SE 422929. And the pages go on and on. I also want to, there were several submittals from Mr. Cusick. Some of them, I understand, were inaccurate. I don't know where we cut that off and try to figure out what his discussions were about and whether or not those are also important to the board or not important to the board. But there was a narrative in the beginning on the Harbor Master building that discussed 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., Monday through Friday, was the original decisions, and how that original decision for the Harbor Master building panned out. ZBA previous board believed the Harbor Master parking lot would be for the public good and would promote and encourage public safety and maritime commerce, which has been supported time and time again in this area of town. This parking lot reflects an appropriate use of the land, we're referring to the main parking lot, as long as the qualities that the Coastal Wetlands District is designed to protect were lost when the area became a DSA and began utilizing this area in 1958 as were permitted at that time. Is this new proposed parking lot a reasonable use of the property? It is above the flood elevation per the building commissioner. We talked about the traffic, and there was a request for a traffic study, and I don't believe this case, if there was a traffic study, it would show any change. I'm not a traffic, but the bylaws don't require us to mandate a traffic study. Traffic studies usually, correct me if I'm wrong, they usually take out the peak hours, correct?
They study the peak weekday and the peak weekend, morning and evening hours.
Okay.
They also contemplate present usage and project 5 years' worth of future build traffic uses.
Okay. We didn't require that.
Some years ago, the bylaw was amended to narrow the circumstances under which those are required.
So we had the soil analysis, I recall Joe Pesevich commenting on his soil analysis, and I was, my own notes were whether or not there was a soil analysis, and if there was it showing anything? And I believe based on an submittal on the last day of hearing from, I believe it was from Mary Murphy on a 2004 DEP, which had 3 pages. Maybe that would be beneficial, and then we'll close for the night. Can you,
Lynn, I wanted to clarify
Yeah.
one quick thing. So it's,
I don't have the.
it's not that it's above, like the lot is not above flood elevation. It's just not in a FEMA special flood hazard area.
And that's what your letter,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to clarify, okay. I believe you provided a letter during the Conservation Commission's evaluation of this project, is that correct? I think that's what the letter that I am referring to.
I believe so. I remember,
How many
yeah,
letters do you?
yeah, it was because they asked that it was, I don't know if it was them or Board of Public Works, I forget, but they asked if it was in it. They wanted a determination of whether it was in the special flood hazard area, and that's why we're here, is because I said, no, it's not, but it is in the coastal wetlands district.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? I'm going to just ask Bob to comment on this
Okay,
document from
I wasn't
2004.
town council when this project was done, but there was a environmental notification form filed with the then Executive Office of Environmental Affairs, DEP, for a federal navigation project maintenance dredging at Green Harbor. There was a proposal to maintenance dredge 50,000 cubic yards from the 6-foot federal anchorage within Green Harbor. The dredge spoils were to be pumped to the dredge spoils area, utilized to permanently close the containment area, required an order conditions, and a 401 water quality certification from DEP and a Chapter 91 permit from the Army Corps of Engineers. And there were some comments talking about the fact that it had been dredged several times since the late 60s. The ENF indicates that several piggyback projects will likely use the dredge spoils areas, but it doesn't indicate when those projects will be done. And the department was going to seek information regarding a final closure of the dredge spoils area. Apparently, the Division of Solids Waste Management, which is another department, reviewed the ENF. They had some comments. It's not suitable for beach nourishment because of the fine-grained, it's too fine-grained.
The size of the particles.
Right. The town says to address public health, the town will permanently fill the containment basin with the water drainage sediments to close the site and allow a future development of the area, so that was what the town was saying at the time. Apparently it was gonna generate 50,000 cubic yards of sediment. There was some other drainage projects that are expected to generate another 20 or 30,000 cubic yards. The department had met with the town on several occasions. There was an indication that the dredge, reuse of the dredge will be permitted under water quality certification program. No permits required from solid waste for proposed reuse. The dredge has the potential to generate nuisance odors, and an odor management plan would have to be submitted in the event of further dredging. There was a contact person and mitigation measures. And then there was some contact information at the Southeast Regional Office. If oil or gas oil and or hazardous material was identified in the implementation of the project, there was supposed to be a notification under the Mass Contingency Plan to the Department of Environmental Protection, and a licensed site professional had to be retained to determine if notification was required and what needed to be done. That was it.
Okay, so it
I don't
doesn't
know whether,
really
I seem to remember something that project was not done.
into, okay,
I think that came from Mr. Procaccino.
okay,
That project was not done.
okay.
I remember they used 5 of the 50 or something in that range.
I just remember having a sense that somebody said that the project was never performed.
So that project right there in that document was never done.
Was never done.
Now, in that, in the comments in that, also it says permanently closed. And I was interpreting it as permanently closed, meaning they let it cap itself, grow back vegetation, and not be using it anymore. But then further down, it says for future development.
That's what it says. It did say that any further dredging in that area beyond that was gonna be handled through the Department of Environmental Protection on a water quality certification process.
Seemed to say it gave them a capacity of 50,000 that they could use.
Plus another 20 or 30.
Right. So if they didn't use it, I don't know what it, seems like that might still be out there.
It might be.
So where, as far as the zoning board of appeals is concerned, the history of the dredge spoil area impacting the request for the parking area, where do we end our discussions? I mean, conservation has done their job. I understand the Board of Public Works, if we were to approve, has made some emails to the effect of perhaps doing soil testing, et cetera. Why, I'm just, there's so much public interest in this project because there has been information out there that the property is toxic. And I'm just saying what, I mean, I'm hearing it. I'm not getting support, scientific support on this. So where do we begin and end as far as making a decision to move forward? I mean, we could, it's just a very difficult situation right
I think you
now
just look at what this is. This is a request
for a parking
at a
lot.
parking lot. And I assume that it's been amended to what is in front of you on the screen now, the smaller version of it. And my understanding is they're asking you to approve a special permit to alter a non-conforming use and allow them to put a parking lot there.
And all of this other could be conditioned, or the state, federal regulations and,
I think you have to pay attention to the standards in 1012, and I think you have to pay attention to the standards in the coastal wetland.
1302, okay. So I
Those
think,
are your rules.
right,
And it's either approved or denied, or approved with conditions.
okay. So do you feel at this point it would be, oh, I took your stuff, would be beneficial to the board, or does the board feel it would be beneficial to ask town council to draft a decision to grant this permit, and then we get it on the board, and then we whittle it down, or we deny it, or how,
I think you need to give me what you want to do.
what we
'cause
want to do.
I have no opinion on whether this
I
should be
understand
approved or
that.
denied.
So
You have
right
to
now,
decide.
we are still in a lot of information, and I
You
think
can
that-
continue your deliberations to another night. If you've had it for tonight, you can continue to deliberate it tonight. But I don't want to draft a decision that suggests an answer either for or against
Okay,
until you tell me what you want to do.
okay. Well, I don't think based on the deliberations tonight, we have come to a
No.
decision on that. So until we spend another hearing
The
hashing
hearing
out.
closed. You have
This
90
hearing is
days to render
closed.
a decision from the
Right.
close of the public hearing, so you can continue it to another night.
Right. So if the board would take what we said this evening and go through the paperwork and pay close attention to 13.02 and 10.12 and how this relates, and then we'll get to it at the, probably, I would like to probably do it at the beginning where we're all nice and fresh at the next hearing, but we'll decide next week, next
I think you
time.
also have to pay attention to everything you receive prior to the last meeting and this plan.
So we will
Everything from the
go,
abutters, everything from the harbor master and the harbor master's consultant and the other town boards, review it and then be prepared to vote yes, no, or yes with conditions, whatever you decide.
yep. Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? We really didn't create an outline, what I intended on doing, create an outline, but 1302, 10.12,
Just go through the
Okay.
standards of 10, 12 and ask yourselves if you believe that the applicant has given you sufficient information to make that decision. Then go through the standards on the coastal wetlands district, and has the applicant given you a project that you can permit?
yeah.
That's,
It's just there's so much other information that's from the public, so
I think
that
that's your
I-
job, to weed through
I
what's
know, and
relevant,
to understand what's
determine
relevant and what's not relevant.
what's relevant, what's not relevant, what was substantiated, what's not substantiated. If you believed everything that the harbor master said or nothing that the harbor master said, you have that prerogative. You're the
Okay.
permit granting authority.
Okay. All right. So I'd like to thank the board for spending their time with us again this evening. It is 8:30. And Nancy, thank you. Andrew, NCTV.
You have to we have
What?
to make any kind of motion to,
No, we're just in deliberation.
okay, all right.
So we will continue our deliberation at a later date. Anything else we need to do?
There was just one more thing on that.
Yeah, there was a, I wanted to have a quick discussion about determination I was inclined to make about a minor modification. So there was a dock that the board had approved with a special permit and variance. They got approval, Chapter 91, they got approval with Concom, built the dock, and then because of Concom's regulations and the requirements with the harbor master, they had to push the dock out another 3 feet to get the required depth and shellfish mitigation. So they had to, that was Concom made that requirement. They had to go back and modify their Chapter 91 license. And when they do that, they have to ask the zoning enforcement officer that there's no zoning violations. And so I'm inclined to feel that that's a minor modification to a variance. There's no change in the actual, what was, the variance, what the variance is for.
Okay.
And it's solely to comply with other state and local regulations, which is a condition of the permit. So I just wanted to kind of inform the board that that was the determination I was inclined to make, and if there were any issues with that determination, I'd like to hear it.
What's the property address, Andrew?
I'll bring that up real quick.
And they need to go 3 feet out further into the river, or
So you're saying non-substantial change?
Yes. 1354 Union Street.
Do we have to notice this, Bob?
so the modifications require a public hearing when they're asking for any different relief, or something that's significantly different from what was previously approved.
I'll zoom in on what was approved, and
And Andrew has the authority on this.
so this was what was approved here. And they're just amending the float by pushing it out 3 feet, extending that so that they could get the required depth that they needed on the back side of the float. And that was based on, I believe, a change in their regulation, the Concom's regulations.
So the float's the same size, it's just extended further out.
Everything is the same size. Literally, the only thing was it was extended 3 feet at the end of the dock in order to get the float past to the correct depth that was
Yeah.
required.
There's an existing dock there now?
Yes.
This is the big yellow house at the North River,
At the
Yep.
bridge?
There it is.
at the bridge.
Yep.
Anything else that?
So basically, you just call it a minor modification and gave you.
So the only thing that I have when these things come across is that the paper trail for them. So when you do something down there and then what is the protocol for getting that information back up into the file and zoning?
Well, so I fill out the Chapter 91 waterways license.
Yeah.
There's a signature page for me, so
Yeah.
I'll sign that signature page and submit it back to the applicant, and then they submit that to the state with the Chapter 91 modification. And that goes into our file down in the building department, and that's certainly something I could, share with the zoning
think-
ZBA as well, and make
So
sure that we
whenever
all
they're-
have copies.
Right,
But the
just,
Concom will have copies of that as well. So, I mean, there'll be multiple,
right, it's just our original decision doesn't reflect that change. And then, 10 years down the road, when we're all in Miami on the beach, I don't want someone, no. 10 years down the road.
If there was any new relief required, or it was more than a de minimis change, and that's why I asked you where the property was and what the length of the dock was, because
Right.
1 foot is not a big deal on a 100-foot-long dock, and maybe 3 feet isn't a big deal on a 300-foot-long dock, less than 1% or something.
Yeah,
But a 10-foot extension might be.
yeah, exactly.
It's up to you to decide.
My feeling was it was in order to comply with state and local regulations.
Right, it wasn't so they
Was,
could
was the
put-
reason why it was
oh,
happening,
yeah.
yeah.
And again, the dock is already there. It's not like they're proposing this and they needed a change. The dock is.
No, we had
there.
already granted the relief that they had already,
Yeah.
yeah, the dock's already there, yeah.
Is there any issue with navigation down there going out further?
I think you can approve it, but it's subject to Army Corps and/or Conservation approval.
Right, yep. And Concom was the one who made the requirement, so.
So you just sign it off?
I'm kind of the last step on it, yeah,
It feels so important.
yeah.
So do you want me to do just a poll? But I think that the board,
Pull the board if you
we'll
want.
just poll the board for Andrew's benefit, that this would be an insubstantial change to 1354 Union Street. Lynn Fiddler, aye.
Chris Bellis was aye. They're doing what we told them to do.
Yeah, I agree. I give them credit for doing that. I agree.
At least they asked.
Mark,
Mark says aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Heidi?
Aye.
Okay. So you have the board's support.
Thank
Is there
you.
something else, Nancy?
I just want to go back a bit because you said you continued deliberations, but you didn't give a date certain.
I don't need to, do I?
No, they can just
Oh,
add this to the agenda of their next meeting for further deliberations.
Okay, I just didn't know if
I
you
just
had-
don't know what's
had to
going
say
on.
The
it.
public hearing's already closed, so you don't have to continue to a date and time certain. They just have to file a decision within 90 days of the
Okay.
close.
Did we do something with Seminole? last-
So reach out to Nancy.
Seminole requested to,
February.
continue to February.
Okay,
But
I didn't get,
did
to
we
see- I didn't
vote-
see it.
do you have to make a motion
to accept the letter?
accept that?
Oh,
And
didn't I already,
continue it?
didn't I already make a motion?
We never actually did that at the beginning.
Did I start coughing?
We just kinda got
Vote to,
going.
vote to continue that to a date and time certain.
Okay. Thought I did that, but- All right, case 2172A, Kevin McNiff, 17 Seminole Avenue, I'm sorry, January
February
8th.
February 8th, 2022,
At 6:30.
at 6:30.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to continue case 72A, 17 Seminole Avenue, to a date certain, February 8th, 2022 at 6:30. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Aye, Chris Belizos.
Larry Keane, aye.
Lynn Fiddler, aye.
Mark Stiles, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Heidi Conway?
Aye.
All right. Is there anything else we need to? It's a special permit
And a variance.
and a variance, yep.
So you need an extension on the variance?
Okay,
You got, because the board has only 100 days to act, so the applicant will have to give you an extension, so extension to beginning of March.
okay.
All right,
Wasn't this the one that didn't seem to have any reason for a variance?
Which is even more of a reason to request the written extension.
all right. Motion to adjourn.
Larry Keane, second.
All those in favor?
Aye, Chris Belizos.
Larry Keane, aye.
Lynn Fiddler, aye.
Mark Stiles, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Heidi Conway?
Aye.
All right, Heidi, have fun. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.